Hello and welcome back to the 1904 Club, the Hull City podcast from the Hull Daily Mail. And first of all, apologies. This is coming to you a bit later than ideally planned. Normally, obviously, we do record on a Monday, but for various reasons, that hasn't been possible this week. So we're coming to you a bit later in the week. I know there's been a clamour from people desperate for Hull City content. So here we are. Burnsy, Fletch, how are we both?
Yeah, we're all right. We've even got a potential new signing to talk about, sort of hot off the press, as it were. So that's good. Fletch?
Yeah, I mean, go on, Fletch, what are you going to say?
No, I was just going to say it's nice to talk about more signings. It actually distracts me from talking about Strictly Come Dancing, which I was at last night. That's another podcast for another day.
I know. Are you going to be in the next series, Fletch?
This is it.
Are we going to see your fandango?
All sequins and whatnot. That would be a sight for sore eyes, wouldn't it, Burnsy? I have to
say. Dear. Tell us about the new signing, Baz. This has come out the blue a bit.
Yeah, so I've got to be honest. When I shut my laptop on Sunday morning after doing my work, I thought I've got a few days off now to spend with the kids before they go back to school and all that sort of stuff, and get a few jobs done around the house and celebrate a milestone birthday and all that sort of tack. And then it turns out they're getting busy again, because 15 signings weren't enough. They're making it number 16 with Steven Alzate from he left. He's a defensive midfielder. Left Brighton during the summer, having played I think 40 odd times in the Premier League for Brighton, and he's coming in on a permanent deal. He's a free agent. He's 25, Colombia international, although he holds, I think, joint citizenship with Britain as well. And yeah, so he bolsters their already bolstered midfield ranks. Fletch, what have you got for us? What's your first thoughts on that?
Surprised. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. I had my phone basically switched off all day yesterday because of what I've just said. I was out, you weren't allowed your phone in. So when I looked at about 11 o'clock last night and saw that this was bubbling away, I was like, where's this come from? It's interesting to know how quickly they've acted on it, because nobody else went in for him during the actual transfer window. Of course, with free agents you can move later, but nobody else seems to have gone in for him, which is interesting. Do you know if anyone else did, Baz?
Well, I've got to be honest, I've been out of the loop, so I don't know too much about what's gone on. That's my upfront admission, having been off and like you say, pretty much turned my phone off for the last few days, which was needed. But I gather Rangers were linked, but then I think Rangers have been all over the place all summer, have been linked with, I think at one point, Burns, they were linked with you, which is a bit scary. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, my concern, and I'll be honest, is always with free transfers at any point of the year. But what is their fitness like, particularly at this stage? We're coming into September, and why has nothing happened before? And there could be any number of reasons for that. In fairness, it doesn't necessarily mean he's not very good. He's clearly got pedigree, because Brighton's recruitment is such that they tend to sign good players. And as I say, he's played 40 odd times in the Premier League, so it's not exactly, he's clearly got some pedigree. It strikes me as they've moved for him because they wanted Jonas Meffert. I'm sure before we finish today, we'll recap the transfer window and how it finished and all that sort of stuff and what went on. But they tried for Meffert, didn't they? From Hamburg, Meffert wanted to move. They felt at one point they got a deal in the pipeline with Hamburg. The fee went up, and between conversations with Tan, with Jared Dublin, the rest of the recruitment guys, Adjun, and ultimately Tim Walter, they decided that the figure that Hamburg wanted for Meffert wasn't value for money. And I respect the fact they stepped away from it, rather than sign up and pay over the odds for a player that ultimately they did want. And I guess this is a fallback option ultimately, Burnsy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll hold my hands up. I wasn't expecting it. So well done to them. You look at his pedigree. He scored the winner for Brighton in the Premier League at Liverpool. He had a really good start to his Brighton career, and I don't quite know why they're not keeping him. He spent some time at Swindon on loan. He played quite a lot of games for Swindon on early loan spells there. He's been at Standard Liège for a couple of seasons, I think. So he's got decent pedigree. I don't know the story behind him, so I don't know whether there's an injury or
Yeah,
whether he just lost form or
there is.
anything like that.
He's had some injury. He's 25 and he's only played in his career 171 games. I mean, Greaves has played that in best part of 3 or 4 years.
That's not bad though. What was the injury? I know he had an ankle injury that kept him out for 3 months. Has there been one recently?
He had a groin a couple of years ago. Now I think he had a lengthy groin injury. He missed a fair amount of time, but he has got. Let's be fair. The guy's clearly got pedigree, and they want somebody.
Yeah, definitely. Colombian international.
Yeah, they want somebody in that number 6 role. They want somebody that can. They've ultimately. He didn't feel he could get it from Mika Seri. Gone. He's not seen it from Xavier Simons so far in pre-season, although Xavier is still quite young. So obviously, for whatever reason, he's not seeing Regan in that position either. He's tending to move Regan a bit further out, much to I think the player's annoyance, because he doesn't look overly happy, if I'm honest. So I guess that's an area they're looking for. We don't know yet, and I know there's been an awful lot of questions about Oscar Zambrano and his potential ban. That is obviously he played at Leeds. His second game. Yeah, he did all right. Yeah, I thought he shielded well, and his use of the ball was okay at times. He did panic. Sometimes I thought when he got on the ball, he panicked a bit. He tried to rush it. But, worst case scenario is that he gets a 2-year ban. Admittedly, some of that will be backdated, I think. But if that is to come to pass, but we don't know officially yet what is the outcome of that. Those discussions. It does, and I'm speaking.
Any idea on timescale, Baz?
Well, this is the thing. This is the confusing thing at the minute. I mean, it's very, and I'm speaking just as a layman here. It is very coincidental that suddenly he's heard nothing about this from the authorities in Ecuador from when it happened, and then suddenly he gets a move to Hull City, and now things are starting to pop out in the press and in the press over there that he might be subjected to a 2-year ban. It's all a bit. I feel that's a tad convenient, and I guess we'll find out in due course. Adjon has spoken when he did his fan Q&A. He said the club were protected, whatever that means. I don't believe there's a callback. The loan can't be cancelled, I don't think, certainly without significant financial penalty to the football club. So it remains to be seen what, if anything, they are protected against if this ban does come to pass. Now, as I said, nothing has been made official. The fact he played at Leeds, there was some talk early part of last week. There was 1 or 2 murmurings, but the fact he was allowed to play at Leeds suggests that hasn't been it's not been activated, and there's nothing official yet. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But if there is a ban forthcoming, whether it be 5 minutes or 5 years or whatever, the worst case scenario is for Zambrano. If for any length of period of time he's not available, then obviously you fancy that Alzate is the guy coming in to cover. I mean, Fletch, what are you doing?
Don't know. He's practicing his moves.
He is, isn't he? He is.
Practicing my paso doble.
Yeah. While you were looking at people's chars, have you done any research on potential free agent strikers? Because if they're still doing business, who's out there? Is there anybody catching your attention? I'll put the same to you in a minute, Baz. But
well, I put a question out actually last week regarding there's a source that journalists and commentators use quite readily, which collates things like this, free agents and whatnot. And Aaron Connelly is still available, which would be the soft sell for Hull City supporters, but Baz shaking his head, not convinced, either by the idea or whatnot. What's your view on that one, Baz?
I'd be amazed if that was a deal that they looked to. Aaron was very much a Liam player. That was driven very much by the former manager, that he felt that he could get something out of Aaron Connelly. And in fairness, when he got him on the pitch, generally he got something out of him. And he looked at times a terrific finisher, probably better than what they've got right now, I would say. Clearly, unfortunately for Aaron, there are things away from football that proved difficult for him. He didn't recover from being poleaxed by Angus Gunn in January. and yeah, so I don't think personally, I don't think that Aaron Connelly is the type of player or person that would succeed under the current manager, Tim Walsh. I don't feel that. I don't feel
who's
that's
out there. Who's the other one?
The other one is someone who's been linked before is Maxi Gomez from the source that we use. So whether or not he has found a club recently, just to check that.
Look, you wouldn't rule anything out in terms of them looking. They're clearly looking at the free agent market because they're signing a player who's a free agent. It was said to me the other day on when I was. I had a late phone call on Friday or early hours of Saturday morning, as it turned out to be, and I was told for strikers that's it right now. I don't get the feeling that is something they'll look to do, but that said, equally you can't rule it out. If a striker came available that they felt was suitable, that could come in and have an impact, then they would look to potentially do it. But I think there'll be a lot of clubs. Strikers, again, as they always are, everybody wants one, and there's a lot of clubs like City that, for whatever reason, we shouldn't forget they did add. And there's a lot of noise on deadline day and around it about not signing the striker. They did sign Burstow and Bedia, so they it's not like they didn't bring anybody in. They just wanted a third one as cover for obviously Estepina moving out to Mexico. So it's always difficult, though, isn't it, bringing in free transfers at this stage of the year? And what are they? My question is always going to be, if a decent striker is a free transfer in the first week of September, why is that player not been snapped up by somebody else? Given there is a shortage of quality strikers out there, and everybody wants one, and naturally, if they're free, they don't cost anything, and the wages aren't going to be huge. So there's a lot of red flags for dipping into stuff.
But there might be a bit of pushback from agents and players, I guess, Baz, because there might still be, one of the players on that list is Ben Yedder, who is a world-class French centre-forward, and apparently he's not got a club at the moment, unless I've missed something quite easily. He will have been commanding top-end five-figure sums a week, and some clubs are just going to turn around and go, well, sorry, mate, if you're 33, 34, why are we going to have that much outlay on you when we could go and get someone 7-8 years younger who's at their peak? If he still wants to play top level football, and then second tier clubs are never going to come in for him if he's commanding that sort of salary.
Yeah,
just have to wait and see.
Shall I read? Do you want me to read some more just to give you an idea of who's available?
Yeah, go for it.
Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I'm just going to go off the camera while I get the list because I've slept a few times. So
that's which of the late signings that came in perhaps most excites you. The one that paid the money for was not Casey Palmer, who I think that's a decent signing, by the way. But Mohamed Baloumi, they paid money for him, didn't they? To Firenze. What do we know about him? Is it exciting?
Yeah, he seems like a real player, doesn't he? There's a lot of excitement in Portugal about him. He's a good age. He looks a real talent. So yeah, that's exciting. They've not paid anywhere near what is. So there was a suggestion in the Portuguese media that I think he'd got a €15 million release clause. Well, they haven't paid anywhere near that. So yeah, that's an exciting one. I think I've been banging the drum for quite a while about Abu Kamara at Norwich, and I wrote something. I was trying to be clever, I guess, because I knew that there was interest from City and also the player when I did something. I think it was the day after the Reading game in pre-season, and suggested that he's a player they should look at. And if they did, there might be will on the player side to make that move. And lo and behold, it bounced back and forwards a few times in the final days, but they eventually got. Norwich knew that the player wanted to go, that they'd got a buyer that was willing to pay good money, and so Kamar is one I like. I've got to be honest, I like Rushworth. I think, and I know there's been a lot of talk about the goalkeeper. We've got more goalkeepers than anything else. And why are we signing Rushworth when we've got Eva Pandor, who, by the way, I think has grown into the season. I thought he was
improved. Yeah,
I thought he's he's copped a lot of flack over the summer as Ivor. But I've got
I wouldn't have given him a chance after seeing him pre-season.
Yeah, and obviously Anthony Rachopi, who's got Champions League pedigree as well. So, but I do think in terms of Rushworth, it's one of those, isn't it? When you might have your plans in place, but then something else comes up and you go, well, that's an opportunity that we really want and is too good to turn down. And I think Rushworth is somebody they've liked for a long time. I think Liam liked him last year. They've kept tabs on him. It's one of those that's unfortunately for City, it's happened on, well, I'd say late in the window on the final day. But given the way that the age that he is, the way he plays, he knows the Championship. He's suited to the kind of the Swansea play a very, very quick out from the back dynamic style of play, similar to what Walter wants to play. So I just think it came to a situation where that deal became available, and it was everything, all the jigsaw pieces, if you like, slotted into place, and they had to do it.
If you think it's better than what you've got, then you do it, and then
absolutely. You try to improve all the time.
What about Casey Palmer? I quite like I mean, I think he's been a decent player for Coventry. They wanted to keep him. I think they wanted to get a new deal to him if they could, but he's decided. So that tells me something. He's an experienced player.
Yeah, he's been given. Let's be fair. He's been given a 3-year deal.
A few goals.
Yeah, 3-year deal at City with the option, so potentially a 4-year contract at what 20? I think he turns 28 later this year. Look, he's been around a bit. He's had a lot of clubs. Mark Robbins said, I think he scored the equaliser. Well, he scored the equaliser at Bristol City in the final game before he moved. Really good goal, actually, great touch and finish. And Mark Robbins said on his day he's a world beater, but it's about that consistency. And ultimately, I guess he said that about a lot of players in the Championship, and that's why they're in the Championship, because they're not at enough to be at that whatever stage in their career to play in the Premier League. Palmer is he knows the Championship. He's played 199 times now of his debut off the bench at Leeds on Saturday. He's a player of pedigree, and he can score goals. He can carry. What's important for me is having players that can travel with the ball, can get the ball, on the halfway line, and can carry it forward and look to drive at teams and look to be direct. And Palmer can do that, and they needed some champ experience, and they've got it.
I think he's a decent signing. So apart from, I think everybody's sort of generally agreed they're a striker light, and maybe they might surprise us. Are you, Fletch? Are you happy with the makeup of the squad now?
I'd say so. I would preferably have liked one more striker just to give a bit of variation.
I'm sure the club would.
I think they would. But having watched bits and pieces of the Leeds game and seeing how Chris Bedia did up front, the way he drove at Joe Rodon and put him on his backside to drive towards the penalty area reminded me of how Liam Delap used to try and bully centre half. So he's also been rather flamboyant with his acrobatic bicycle kick on debut as well. So I'm quite sold on him already, even though he hasn't got a goal. And then Bairstow is one for the future who's only going to blossom more and more. So as long as they stay fit, I think City do have forward options which we can hang our hat on and be confident in.
I don't share that view. I'm a bit concerned. What I would say, I like Bedia. I thought he did really well at Leeds for the most part. There was a brilliant moment in the first half. I think Louis Coyle did so well on the far side, like defensive third, far side of the pitch. Won his tackle. I think it was against Firpo. I think the Leeds fans went absolutely ballistic at the referee because Coyle had fairly won the ball, and their lad had gone down like a bag of nails. Then he pinged it across, and Bedia went up. All he did was, because he's obviously massive, he just kind of stood his ground and won the header. I think it was Rodon who came into him, went down again like a bag of nails. Leeds fans were absolutely apoplectic because they didn't get it. That was the second one in a few seconds. They didn't get a foul. And he went on and he absolutely leathered it at Meslier, who did really well to turn it over his crossbar. And that was, I really like that from Bedia because it showed his instinctiveness to win his ability in the air to win the ball, and then his ability then to take a touch and get we were right behind it in the press box in the main stand, and he didn't half leather it. So I like him. I'm not sure about Bairstow. I've not seen much from him. He created a decent opportunity at Plymouth, but he's not had the games yet. I just worry that we said it in January. They didn't sign a replacement for Delap. They tried to fudge through a Billy Sharp, and obviously Noah Ohio, who was unproven at that level. And we find ourselves, hence the panic on deadline day. They came very close to signing. I'll say very close. They were in talks with Chelsea over David Washington. That came after trying to sign Fofana, who was on loan, who I really liked actually, was on loan at Burnley last year. That didn't happen. Fofana, they agreed everything with Chelsea, permanent deal, going to spend an awful lot of money potentially on Fofana. Fofana just didn't fancy the move, so that didn't happen. I think there was talk about Hoffenheim as well. I think he wanted to go to Hoffenheim in Germany. Didn't happen. David Washington was a late one. And they just ran out of time, and that wasn't possible. But they obviously tried for Tom Cannon. He didn't want to commit to leaving Leicester. He wanted a loan move, hence why he's gone on loan to Stoke. They've tried. There was the Robert Bedinick earlier in the window. There was obviously Tommy Conway, although that again, I think they came into that late when he was already probably off to Borough, as it turned out. They just haven't been able to get that other striker they wanted, and they wanted to pay money for. They were going to pay an awful lot of money for Fofana, had he fancied it, which he didn't. And but yeah, I just look at that team, and Kamar can play through the middle. You can push Casey Palmer further up. I just look at that team and goals. The lack of goals worry me. I've got to be honest, Burnsy.
Well, I mean, I'm with the pair of you. I've liked what I've seen from Bedia so far. To do an overhead kick on your debut, get it on target, and he's big and bullish. He looks to have some skills. I'm quite excited there. Absolutely agree, Fletch. It'll be injuries. If they can get to January without an injury to him, then that'll be brilliant. Because I've liked what I've seen. Otherwise, I suspect Burstow, I'm with you, Baz. None of us have seen him enough in City colours to know what he's going to bring to the party. Otherwise, we might see a lot of false nines. So we'll just have to wait and see whether they can get through it. In terms of, because I'm conscious this is a fairly short 1904 club today. In terms of what you saw at Leeds, and you two were both very pessimistic ahead of Leeds, and I was thinking, well, they could get a draw, and I thought they played all right. I think if Slater had played that ball across when he's got three teammates inside in the box low rather than high, they probably would have scored. Miller, who impressed me with his pace and attacking their defence, if he could head a ball, might have scored at the far post. I thought they were all right. They obviously lost the game 2-0, but I thought there was signs of growing, and they've got the new signings. You may disagree. Are you less or more optimistic, having seen the Leeds performance, Fletch?
It's really difficult at the moment because I remember before the game, and I've been saying during the season, and the phrase "spilt milk" was brought up, and that's just due to the fact that I may have fallen into the trap of becoming impatient because of social media. I'm quite happy to take my medicine on that, and 4 games in, and we haven't seen significant tactical difference or tactical improvement, however you want to address it. You could argue that he hasn't had a lot of time, but then again, he's had all summer to be able to start putting his philosophy in place. And
he's not had a squad.
Yeah, he's not had a squad, but now you're getting all those players gelling in. So it's not just on, obviously, playing staff. It's obviously what's gone on as well behind, because there's been such a massive overhaul of players going out and then bringing them in. So it feels like the Tigers at the moment are a good 2-3 weeks behind everyone else, if that makes sense, in some areas. So they're going to be playing catch up. But the thing that bugs me is the reason why I was so negative going into the Leeds game is, if you compare and contrast last year, now obviously you've spoken there about not having a squad, and I accept that. But last year, you went into games at Southampton, Leicester, other places as well. Leeds to some extent last year, and there was a buzz about the place thinking, well, we do stand a really good chance of getting a victory here. Now, I just didn't have that optimism going into this game this time. And I listened to last night in 04 Club Burnsy, and you mentioned about it'd be good to take a point. Well, I don't want to be in a position where we're going to some away games and taking points. If you want to make progress, you want to win. And that's my view of things.
Well, I'm sure they want to win. I might suggest to you that they lost the game because he wanted to win and he took Slater off.
Yeah, and that's good. That's
made
fine,
that
yeah.
change.
That's fine if you're positive and
it's
you
not
want
fine
to go
if
on.
it comes back.
No, what I
It's
mean
not
is
fine if it comes back and
what
bites
I
you on
mean
the
is-
backside, is it?
No. What I mean is, if you're going to be proactive and try and get the win, then that's positive. Okay, they've lost the game, but then there'll be other weeks where they actually are able to win the game, depending on who they play. Yeah. I'm still concerned defensively, but then again, if you're going for 3 points at the end of the match, you are going to be more open at the back anyway. And you know the manner of the second goal, showing how far open they were, was quite telling, really, for that second goal when they got done on the counter. But you know, there's little bits and pieces that are both positive and negative. I'd be more concerned in 3 or 4 weeks' time if you've still maybe got 1 win in 8. Then the alarm bells would start ringing for me.
That's enough. Baz, where are you at?
I'm not convinced. I've got to be honest. I've not seen. I'm not convinced by what I've seen from the new manager. The jury's out for me. I need to be convinced. I think we all said at the start of the season that you kind of, as much as it's annoying and frustrating, and I don't like it, that the first month was kind of almost going to be a write-off, and whatever you got from the first month you take, because we all knew that given how late they left their business, only 2 signings before the 1st of August. The rest of them have come in August, and now 1 in September. It was always going to be, look, it's difficult for Walter, isn't it? Because, and we've spoken about this for months, that he didn't have a squad. He inherited a wafer thin, lacking a quality group at the start of pre-season. That group of players looks completely different now. We've had 15 new signings. And Fletcher's popped away. Let's bring him back. There we go. 15 new signings have all come in a very quick period of time. So he's trying to put a team together, with new players coming in, 2 or 3 a week. So that's not easy. Now it's down to him. He's got a group of players now. He's got an international break. Frustratingly, from our point of view, like the likes of Liam Miller and Casey Palmer are away on international duty. They, particularly Palmer and Miller, are 2 players that you would want here on the training pitch. But it's amazing for them to be away with their country. So fair play. But that when you look at that run of games, Sheffield United at home, Stoke away, Cardiff at home, QPR and Norwich away before the next international break, I'm struggling to see where a win's coming from at the minute, because I've watched them in training, and I've watched every single game they've played from pre-season, and at no point in any game have they ever looked like winning. They've not really looked like scoring many goals. I mean, they've scored 2 goals, one of which was Oscar's penalty, and the other was Louis Coyle's fantastic run and finish. They haven't really looked like scoring. Had lots of shots, 48 shots in 4 games. Great. They've hit the target with, I think, 13 of them. So they're not really looking like scoring goals. Go on, Burnsy.
No, it's all right. No, I take your point. I was just conscious at the time. I wanted to raise 1 point with you on something you said earlier. So you're not. You're not optimistic at the moment.
I'm not
saying I am. I'm just trying to be realistic. I've always thought that this was going to take some time, and it might not happen. He might not be able to do it, and the methods might not work, and then you start looking at the results and you think, "Ooh, what's going on here?" But I think it needs time.
It does, yeah, and hopefully, he can start to get square pegs in square holes, or round pegs in round holes. Now he won't have to play Omer out wide, because he was completely ineffective and offers nothing out wide. Maybe he can get him more central, because you've got Kamara stroke Belumi who can play wide right. Ultimately, it doesn't look like they're going to have a striker that's going to chip in with 20 goals. I don't see that in Bedia. I've not seen, admittedly, in a few flashes, but based on his previous record, I don't see that in Burstow. So you're going to need, Miller scored 5 goals in a fairly defensively minded Preston team. He needs to double that. So that needs to be 10. You're looking at your other side, whether it be Belumi or Kamara, to chip in with a chunk. Abdush needs to chip in with a chunk, and you need to get a chunk from your strikers. But at the minute, they just don't look like scoring goals. I'm hoping that come Sheffield United first Friday back, a week on Friday, week tomorrow actually, that they hit the ground running. We see a bit more from them. We see them start to score some goals, because for all this talk of heart attack football and attacking football, they don't look like scoring any goals, and that's a big concern for me.
Okay, I absolutely accept that. This is, and we should apologise for not reading out any messages today, but we've various things this week. It's been sort of a last minute thing to do. This Thursday lunchtime edition of the 1904 Club. We'll get back to normal next week. I just wanted, and I'm conscious of the time, to pick up on something you said. You don't think Regan Slater's happy? I'm paraphrasing what you said there. Oh, Fletch. What are you?
Yeah,
are you feeling the same thing?
I look, and I just look at some of the players, and I look at their body. I think back to how they were last season, and they looked a lot. As a group, they looked a lot happier. This group, to me, does not look happy. They don't look at ease with themselves. They don't look at ease with what they're being asked to do. They don't look like they're enjoying it. And and there could be any number, and I could be miles off it here. This is just my perception of what I see. You talk to the players, you see them around, you watch them. We're invested in this football club. This football club is my life. It dominates my life, and I take the time to look at things. And it's just my comparison from what I see from last year to this year, and there looks a marked sea change in the way what I would say. You go in on record in a press conference and ask a player. I did this to Alfie Jones after Leeds and asked him what the dressing room was like, and they're all going to say the same thing. They're all going to play the part. Oh, the dressing room is great. Happy as Larry. We're loving what we're doing. All that rhetoric, and pretty much any player in any football club in the country will say the same thing in a press conference or an interview. But I look at them, and I look at the way they play, and I look at them out on the pitch and the way they warm up and around the place. They just don't look as happy as they did last season. And I might, like I say, I may be miles off it.
I echo some of the sentiments Baz says there. I think there is a comparison, or a difference, I should say, in how they look this year in comparison to last year in some like the way they train and things like that. That might just be because of things like the relationships of last year. You've got a squad that really, let's be honest, doesn't know each other yet, so they're still possibly sussing each other out.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is that if they're having to do things like double sessions and not have days off, that's going to be a shock to the system.
Is that happening?
That's what that's what I've been led to believe. I've been led to believe that they haven't had a day off.
That's
well, look, different managers have different regimes, and Liam's regime was a bit more, say, relaxed at times, but it was quite holistic at times, and he was very much, he wanted the players time off and spend time with the family. And Tim has his way of operating. He comes from Germany, different approach, different way of doing things. Obviously out in Turkey, it was double sessions. Compared
to that pre-season,
yeah,
now we're in this. Is that genuinely the case? Because to me that would be a concern. You've got to have some time off. Surely they're getting a day off.
Well, if it is the case, and I'm not, when I say that, I'm merely suggesting it as a rumor rather than fact. But if it is the case, then it would be, you've got to think that there will be individuals in that team who've got children, they've got partners, they live away from home. Some of them are obviously in a different country, and they'll be having lots of different things spinning around their minds, which might obviously have detrimental effect. So, so we all, like us three, if someone said to us, you can't have a day off in like 3 weeks since season started, how would you feel about it? I think you'd be pretty annoyed, even though they'll be getting things like they'll be getting fed and they'll be getting this, that, and the other, and they're out on a football pitch kicking a ball about, which is what they love. But everyone has that sort of like wall in which you'd hit. The other side of the coin is they do get obviously their days off and whatnot, and they're just having very intense training sessions, and they might just be frustrated that the tactical philosophy hasn't really been embedded yet on the football pitch, and the players are getting frustrated at that possibly.
Like I say, Burnsy, I just get the feeling from watching them play that they're not they're not at ease with themselves at the minute, and hopefully they're professional athletes. They're not winning football matches. You know, as a collective, I know there's a lot of change. There's been a lot of change in the dressing room, but as a collective, they haven't won a football match for a long time. I think it was Coventry away in early April or sometime in April, whenever that was, away at Coventry. That was the last game this football club won, and so a lot of those players, the likes of Pandor and Jonesy, Coyley, you know, Regan. They've been around this for a long time, and they're not winning football matches. So I guess what I would also say to counteract my own point is that if they were having the times of their lives, you'd ask why, because you're not winning football matches. So maybe if they win the next 3 games, maybe we'll see a few more smiles. But at the minute, it's a smileless place.
2 things we next time you're talking to the manager, we need to establish the truth of the situation, don't we? In terms of, you know, what is the situation with? Is it all double sessions? They must be getting some time off, otherwise that just destroys you. That's no way. So we'll establish the truth. What I would say to you, just looking at it, I've not necessarily been studying the body language, is they are working. They're definitely there's no sense that they're not working for him or anything like that. They are working. That they're grafting like buggery, trying to make it work. It may not be working yet, and you ain't going to be happy if you're losing games, because you know you'll not be picking up a win bonus. Your expectations following last season will be, I want to be a Premier League footballer, etc., etc. So they'll not be happy. But I'm sort of looking at it thinking, well, they're grafting the nuts off. They are working hard to try and make it work.
Let's be fair as well. You know, let's be fair. You know, we talk about the Leeds game, and they for a period of that first half they were well in it. Before he took Will Jarvis on for Slayer, and it all went belly up. And that's not to pin it on Will Jarvis, by the way. It's just that change did have a bad impact on the game. Liam's team, you know, for all the positive, you know, let's not get grass is greener. Liam's team absolutely played Leeds off the park on Bank Holiday Monday at Easter. They were brilliant. They lost the game 3-1. So exactly. You know, this team, they still lost the game, and this team lost the game, and
effectively said bye-bye to the playoffs on
that. Yeah, and I guess what I would also say is the Leeds team that played on Bank Holiday Monday was 100% better than the Leeds team that I saw on Saturday, who I thought were okay. You know, okay. They capitalised on a mistake down the left-hand side for the goal, which was a good goal. And the second one was a good finish from Pirot, but that came from City going hell for leather at the other end. I didn't think Leeds were all that, if I'm brutally honest. I think they look at a decent team. Of course they do, but they're not a patch on the Leeds team of the quality they had last year. Of course, they've lost a lot of players like Rutter and Somerville, but yeah, they're still a work in progress. But they've got to start. There's only so far you can keep saying that we're work in progress. They can't still be a work in progress in March when they're bottom of the table or third bottom and facing the drop. They've got to be, at some point, this work in progress has to click, and they have to start winning some football matches. And the manager has to start winning some football matches.
And there'll be a turning point, because I remember back in 2018-19, I remember actually being stood with you, Burnsy, when we went to Reading and there was a 3-0 defeat and Hull City were bottom of the league. And suddenly, come the end of the season, we went to Middlesbrough in March, and there was a very, very slim outside chance of sneaking in the playoff places. So as soon as you get that first win, it's all a question of character and all a question of morale. How much is that going to boost morale in the side? I think it's one, looking at it more positively, it's just a case of the frustrated. The frustrated it hasn't clicked yet. And hopefully, from a Hull City point of view, once that first win comes, it might create a snowball effect, which obviously, as Hull City fans who listen to this, is what we all want. The question is, when does it happen?
Well, it needs to happen soon. And I'm sure we'll talk about it next week, but Sheffield United at home next Friday night is the perfect opportunity to get that first win, Burnsy.
Yes. But all along, I've said you're going to have to be patient with this. All the factors. This to me is going to take some time, and the manager's said it. So you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt that it's for the players to click into the way that he wants to play. Is going to take some time. So give it a couple of months, give it 10 games, and see where it is. Have some sort of assessment then.
From what we've seen so far, then, what do we think is Hull City's best 11, or is it too hard to tell at the moment given the signings that
We don't know. We've not seen some of the players. I think that's too early. The manager won't know his best 11.
Exactly. So that was going to be my next question.
How the hell would we know? How would the fans know? Nobody knows yet. The players won't know the best 11. If the manager doesn't, what chance does anybody else get?
Yeah,
so it's
because there has been managers, and I'm not saying he's walking a tightrope already, far from it, but there has been times where people have gone, did that manager look like he knew his best 11? Did the staff know the best 11? Did the players know the best 11? So that would be a concern. But then in 2 weeks, 3 weeks' time, he might know his best 11 and things might start to click. I think the Sheffield United game, and this might sound a little bit silly, but for Hull City to win it, I think needs the sort of elements that are off the pitch. You need the crowd behind you. You need the crowd to be patient. You can't let the fans, get on their back if they start passing it backwards, that kind of thing, because that's one thing that the fans are concerned about, and that is the speed of the game doesn't seem to have actually accelerated at any stage tactically, which I think is a growing concern.
It's quicker than last season.
Yeah, I just watched that. I watched the Leeds game.
Balls into the box.
I wasn't really sure what their strategy was. I turned to somebody in the press box and said, I'm not really sure what they're trying to do. I'm still not sure what their actual what they're trying to do, and hopefully, like I say, I don't want to hang anybody out to dry, and I don't want to be negative Nelly. We're still early. We've had 4 games. There's been 15/16 new signings. 20 odd players have gone. We're this is a completely different ship now to what we've seen before, and it is going to take time. But ultimately, football stops for no man and or woman. So you have to. He's got to start winning football matches, and he's not looked like he's not won a single game, and he'll be. He's feeling it because the way he's been, the way he's spoken to me, he's been very. I'm not going to go into that, but you can tell he's feeling it because the way he's being, the way he's acting, and he's of course he's going to feel it. He wants to win, as he said himself. He's not winning. He doesn't look like winning, and he needs to get some wins under his belt because if he doesn't, the axe will fall because that's football, and he knows that. We all know that. Everybody that's in this game knows that if you keep losing football matches, at some point you're going to cop it. However positive you want to be, or whoever you are in football, you will have a problem, and this team cannot be allowed to be struggling at the bottom end of the Championship and fighting a relegation battle. So he has to win games.
I think we'll leave it there, won't we, Burnsy? Because you've got places to be.
Yeah, we'll leave it on the patience grasshopper message from me, and we'll we'll reconvene Monday or sometime next week to build up to the Sheffield United game, and we'll see what happens.
We will indeed. Again, apologies for the delayed recording of this, but there are reasons for that, and I hope you understand. And as Burnsy says, we will be back next week with more build-up and you never know, a new signing or whatever else. So Burnsy, thank you for your time. Fletch, thank you for your time. And everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Keep your questions, comments, and God knows what else coming to the 1904 Club on Twitter. And we will be back again very soon. Take it steady.